All right, we are back in Luke 20 now, starting a new chapter. If we remember where we left off last time, it's the triumphal entry. Jesus began that whole journey back in Jericho. We had the wonderful examples of faith in the blind beggar and in Zacchaeus, two miserable people, but such faith. And that's in the lowest of place in Jericho. But then when he gets to Jerusalem now, he draws near and he's weeping over Jerusalem as he sees the city and the destruction that's awaiting for them because of they didn't know of his coming. They rejected him when he came, and so he has the triumphal entry. And then immediately, if you remember, the first thing he does when he goes into Jerusalem, he heads right to the temple and he cleans house. And that's where we left off last time. He drives out the money changers and says, "This is a house of prayer. You've made it a den of robbers." And you can imagine the chief priests and the scribes and the leaders of the area were not too pleased with him and were now seeking to destroy him. But why couldn't they do it? Why couldn't the chief priests, and he's just one man, why couldn't they just take him and stone him right there and then?
Because the crowds were so in love with them and so supportive of him that it would just cause ruckus and then they'd lose their standing with the Romans.
Yes, yes.
Mm.
They want to do it without being the bad guy. So we got to plot and scheme to do this, and we got to get rid of him somehow. But we can't have our fingers on it. We have to do it in such a way that the crowds won't rise up against us. Because at this time, he's extremely popular. All right. So that's where we left off. And now we begin the challenge, some of the challenges against him. They're trying to find ways to trap him. And so Luke 20, verses 1 to 8, is sort of the first challenge for him in Jerusalem. So, Liz Privinus, would you read that for us, 1 to 8?
Be happy to. One day, as Jesus was teaching the people in the temple and preaching the gospel, the chief priests and scribes with the elders came up and said to him, "Tell us by what authority you do these things, or who it is that gave you this authority." He answered them, "I also will ask you a question. Now tell me, was the baptism of John from heaven or from man?" And they discussed it with one another, saying, "If we say from heaven, he will say, 'Why did you not believe him?' But if we say from man, all the people will stone us to death, for they are convinced that John was a prophet." So they answered that they did not know where it came from. And Jesus said to them, "Neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things."
All right. All right. There's a lot to take from this passage here. This is a great section. So he's Jesus teaching in the temple, and so this is the challenge, we'll call it. And who's the one asking him the question here? We always want to keep that in mind. Who are the ones confronting Jesus?
Priests, scribes, and elders.
By the priests, scribes, and elders. Now, when you hear that phrase, um, who are these people? Who are the priests, the scribes, and the elders?
Those that run the temple.
Yeah, well, the priests are certainly in charge of the temple, but these are pretty much all the leaders of Israel at this time, the religious leaders, I should say, as well. Well, the elders would be part of the Sanhedrin; they would be the political leaders as well. But the priests and the scribes are oftentimes the priests and scribes are often at odds with each other. The priests were the Sadducees. They were the elites. They ran the temple grounds, and the people that hated the Sadducees the most were the Pharisees, which are
Yes.
the scribes and Pharisees. So these are like the two. It's like Democrats and the Republicans all together on this here. They hate each other, but they're the leaders.
Yeah.
And the elders are the Sanhedrin, those that are all the authorities. These are the leaders of Israel. So they're all present there. They're ready to take him down. And if they can find a way to trap him, to get him looking at the very least to lose support, because they're trying to separate him from his supporters. If they can't either to do something that is so outrageous that the Romans will have to shut it down, or at the very least to somehow separate him from his supporters. So they ask a question. What is the challenge here? What do they ask?
Whose authority you doing this by?
Yeah, by what authority do you do these things? What are these things?
Everything he's been saying. I'm doing.
The
Well, what is he
miracles,
doing that requires authority?
the miracles.
No, the
But
miracles, strangely enough, don't require authority to do miracles.
the cleaning of the temple,
Yeah, the cleaning of the temple.
The teaching in the temple.
The cleansing of the temple. Now, the teaching is even that is not as controversial because there's lots of teaching going on in the temple, and there can be lots of rabbis there. But the big thing is what just happened at the end. He just turned over the tables in the temple. That's and even called it. You'll notice it. Well, it is written, "My house shall be a house of prayer." In other passages, he refers to his father's house, but he's acting like he owns the place when he comes in there, and causes. By what authority? Who are you to do that? That's the real question. By what the cleansing of the temple? What authority do you have? And now notice this is a good tactic for us to learn here. Is when Jesus does this so often. Whenever he is asked an insincere question,
Mhm.
how does he often respond?
you
Yes.
answer my question, I'll answer yours.
He asks them a question, right? He follows it up. So he knows these guys, do they really care? If he gives them an answer, are they going to say, "Oh, well, that's very satisfying. Thank you for clarifying that for us"? No, absolutely not. This is an insincere question. They're trying to trap him.
And so he traps them.
Yes. So here's the dilemma for Christ. Let's talk about that. The trap. If he says, well, what are the possible answers that he could give to that question? What are they thinking he's going to give? The trap is, well, if he says,
If I get it from God,
if he says from God, right? What is that then?
Borderline blasphemy.
That's blasphemy, especially when all the leaders, the anointed ones of Israel, all the official representatives of God are there opposing. It says, we didn't know anything about this, right? God, that's blasphemy. What's another possible answer he might get? He might give. What are the possible authorities are there?
by his own authority.
By his own authority, right? Well, that's even worse.
By the Romans,
By the Romans.
that would turn the people against him.
Oh, yes. I mean, you can see this is like they know he's doing this of his own authority, as the Christ, the Son of God, let's just say. And they can, if he says it right there, they've got something against him. They can find it because he has no. This is a perfect question from their mind. There is no good answer because he has to explain himself. There is an answer, but the explanation would take time and would be greatly offensive to many, and it would certainly cause a lot of trouble. All right, and then they can charge him with blasphemy and so forth like that, but his time's not yet. So he says, all right, fine. Jesus' response is, I'll ask you a question. And what is his question?
Was the baptism of John from heaven or from men? A man, excuse me.
Yeah, was John's baptism from heaven or from man? Now, that's an interesting question. Why does he bring up John's baptism here? What do you think is going on here?
Well, he knows the truth, and he also knows what the people are believing around him. He knows that if there isn't a good answer for them.
Yeah, he kind of puts them in the similar pickle with him. There is no good answer because if they say, if we say from heaven, that John's baptism is from heaven, then
Why didn't you believe him?
he will say, then why didn't you believe him? If we say from man, then what will happen?
Too many followers that believe it's from heaven.
Then we'll be stoned to death.
Yeah.
Because they are convinced that John was a prophet. this is the politician's dilemma here. He can't share his true feeling. What do they? In fact, what do they say? There's they have a definition of a political gaffe is when you accidentally tell the truth as a politician. That's a political gaffe. It can't be honest. If they're honest and they say, well, from man, we don't even know what they really believe, because they may have believed it's from heaven, but they couldn't politically, for their purposes, follow him. That would ruin things for them. So some of them maybe didn't believe, some of them maybe did believe, but for all intents and purposes, they had to maintain this I plead the fifth, because we just have to ignore John.
Well, he was telling everybody that they were vipers, telling them that they were vipers. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, but here's the thing. What's interesting about why Jesus brings up John's baptism, I think there's another reason why he mentions John's baptism. What was John's role in
Come
the gospel?
before Christ to prepare the world for him.
Yeah.
He prepares the way for Christ, right?
Mm.
In fact, he even says that John was sent not just to baptize.
Hmm.
There was another reason he was sent, but also to announce the coming of the Christ and to declare, remember, that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. If you remember that, I saw heaven opened, and the voice says, "This is my Son whom I love." That all happened at John's baptism. It's John's baptism where Jesus is publicly proclaimed, not just from John, but from God above.
John's baptism or Christ's baptism by John?
John's baptism of Christ. Yeah.
Yeah.
So John's baptism, I'm thinking, is all his baptism, but all culminating in when Christ appears and is baptized. So John baptizes all the people to prepare them for the coming of the Messiah, but John also baptizes to reveal the Messiah. So it's his baptism of Jesus that reveals him to the world. If you remember, that's why all of Jesus's first disciples were disciples of John. And so when they see John saying, "Behold the Lamb of God, behold, I testify, this is the Son of God," they go off and follow Christ. He's no stranger to them. They're waiting for that announcement, and John is the herald. So in a sense, John answers the question of by what authority Jesus comes and cleanses the temple. It's John's baptism that says it. So if they had said, well, we believe it's from heaven, he would probably go further than just say, then why didn't you believe him? And John testifies about me, by what authority I do these things. And I am the Son of God, because of, if they were sincere. But of course they're not. And so they say, their response is then, well, we don't know. It's still a mystery to us, which again which exposes them to the crowds, because now it's like everyone can see they're being exposed. What do you mean you don't know? It's the most significant event in the last few years is John's baptism. Everyone knows about John. Everyone has something about him. Herod put him to death, for goodness sake. This is a big deal. And you don't know. You are leaders, have no clue. You haven't looked into this and determined this. It's outrageous. But they're being exposed in that one question. So, and Jesus says, then I won't tell you. I tell you. So you can't figure that out.
The Jews usually don't baptize their children, so when did this baptism start?
Great question.
When John came along
You're right. So
to make the way.
You're right. The Jews did not baptize. They just circumcised. But there was a ritual of baptism.
Mm-hmm.
Who
But
was it that would be baptized?
Gentiles.
When a Gentile converted to Judaism, he would have to not only be circumcised, but be baptized. They would wash away all the idols. So it's really significant that John is baptizing the Jews. And where is he baptizing them?
The Jordan.
In the Jordan River.
Mm.
That's significant too, because what is happening here is that since the exile, God sent the people away and he told them, you are not my people. And so they are, in a sense, he's calling in this baptism, he's acknowledging that they are not God's people right now, and they need to repent and be brought back. They're as filthy as the nations, and they need to be they need to be washed again. So the reason the Jews are not baptized is because, well, they were baptized actually twice.
Yeah.
The first time they were baptized,
Red Sea.
the Red Sea, and the second time,
The Jordan.
the Jordan River. Every time they entered into a new phase of history, they had to cross through water to get there. And Peter, I
But they
think,
didn't get wet. I don't know if that counts.
but they got to cross through the water to get there. They crossed through the water to get into the wilderness. A new covenant has been established now. And then when the next generation comes in, it's interesting. They were never circumcised in the desert. Only right before they enter the promised land, they're circumcised, and then they walk through the waters, and a new nation is born. So baptism often coincides with that new birth.
Mm.
So in this case, it's a symbolic thing that they're coming in, and Jesus coming into the Jordan is the significance of that. He's not repenting of anything, but he's identifying with his people, and he is like the new Joshua, leading them back to the promised land again, restoring them. So
I just started the book of Joshua, my favorite book. It's very exciting.
It is.
the first part is, yes, I agree. The second part's a little dry as they get into the dividing up the land, but yeah, you're right. It's terrific stuff. Excellent, great stuff. All right. Let's move on to our next story now. Jesus tells a parable. And let's pick it up there. Bob Thomas, do you want to get the first part of it? Let's just do from verses 9 to 13.
Okay. And he began to tell the people this parable. A man planted a vineyard and let it out to tenants and went into another country for a long while. When the time came, he sent a servant to the tenants so that they would give him some of the fruit of the vineyard. But the tenants beat him and sent him away empty-handed. And he sent another servant, but they also beat and treated him shamefully and sent him away empty-handed. And he sent yet a third. This one also they wounded and cast out. Then the owner of the vineyard said, "What shall I do? I will send my beloved son. Perhaps they will respect him."
All right. So he tells this parable now of the vineyard. We had a similar parable earlier, if I remember. Did we cover something like this of the minas?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. The king.
This now is a similar parable. We have a man, he plants a vineyard. And so these are the points of the scene here. And what does he do? First he plants a vineyard, then he does what?
He
Goes away.
gave it to tenants.
Yeah.
Planted a vineyard and let it out to the tenants.
He
To
lets it out
what?
to tenants, and he goes to another country for a long while. Okay. So a man plants a vineyard, he hands it over to tenants to take care of it, and then he goes to another country for a long while. So that's the first scene. So we'll call that scene 1. Scene 2 is what now? Pick it up.
It's time to reap some of the rewards of his property. So he sends people to collect.
He sends servants to collect, right, the fruit.
We're talking about Jesus here.
Well, we'll pull it all together in a second. We're going to try to get the picture, big picture first, and then we'll kind of break it down. So he sent servants to collect the fruit, right? But what happens to the servants?
They're killed.
They
No.
were beat-
They got
Killed.
beat
they were beaten.
The
away
tenants beat
empty-handed.
the servants and send them away empty-handed.
They-
Another servant comes. They beat and treat him shamefully. And then the third servant comes.
And
They
treated the
wound
same.
and cast out. All right. So now the next scene. Scene 3. Now it comes back to the owner and says, "What shall I do?" And what does he do?
He sends his son.
beloved son.
The owner sends his beloved son. And what's his thinking?
Perhaps
they'll
they'll respect them.
Perhaps they will respect him. I mean, I can see maybe they know my son. I'll send him. They'll have to respect him. I mean, if I
Because
send the
he's the
servants,
He's the offspring of the owner, so he's
Yeah.
thinking, yes, that he'll be respected.
yeah. Well, the servants are just servants, so maybe they don't respect these servants, but maybe they'll respect my son, and I'll get what I need from them. Let's pick it up from there. How they respond to that. Verse 14. Elizabeth, you want to get that 14 down to
Sure.
16? Just a couple verses.
To 16, okay, let's 14. Let me go back up to 14.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, got it.
Trying to find. Here we go. But when the tenants saw him, they said to themselves, "This is the heir. Let us kill him, so that the inheritance may be ours." And they threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. And then, when then will the owner of the vineyard, what then will the owner of the vineyard do to them? He will come and destroy these tenants and give the vineyard to others. When they heard this, they said, "Surely not."
Okay. All right. Owner sends his beloved son. Perhaps they will respect him. But what happens to the son? What is the thinking of the tenants?
They figure if they kill him, they'll be able to reap the inheritance.
Kill him, thinking that they will get the inheritance. If you know how that works, if you have a household and if the owner has no son, the inheritance goes to the servants. If you remember Abraham, and he's saying, I have no son, and my servant will be receiving everything from me. So they're thinking, we get rid of the son, he has no other offspring, and therefore, when he dies, the vineyard will be ours. It's like squatters' rights kind of a thing. They'll get the vineyard once the old man dies. And the question is, so that's what they do. They kill him and they cast him out. Okay. So here's the question. What will the owner do once his son has been killed?
We'll come
Come
back
and
and
destroy
wipe
the
them out.
tenants.
He will destroy those tenants and give the vineyard to others. Okay. Now the people hear this and they are offended. Surely not, because they know what this means. They understand what he's talking about, and that's what we're going to break down in a second. What is he talking about? What is the meaning of this? Let's talk about the characters. Who is the man? Who is the
Tenants?
who are the tenants? Who are the servants? Who is the son? So let's talk about that. So
The
we have
man's
man,
God.
the tenants. Oh, we'll talk even before that. The man, the vineyard, the tenants, the servants, and the son. Those are the main things here, right? So the man you're saying is God.
Yep.
I think that's safe to say.
Yep.
This is God, the Lord. Okay. What's the vineyard?
Israel.
Israel. In the Old Testament, they understood it immediately because the Old Testament references Israel as a vineyard that God plants. I brought you out a wild vine out of Egypt, and I planted you here. And Israel is often referred to as this vineyard. Who then are the tenants of Israel?
People who live there.
Now the
The
priests,
Jews,
True, yeah, even more specific.
the Jews.
More
scribes,
specific than the Jews, yes.
priests, scribes, elders, all the leaders.
Yeah. These are the leaders of Israel. They're the ones in charge. The vineyard, in a sense, is Israel is more specific than the land of Israel. We talk people. These are God's people that he's chosen, that he's delivered. And so the vineyard is not presented as something that's bad. It's something that is good throughout this whole thing that God has a heart for. And the tenants are the bad ones. They are the leaders of Israel, the shepherds of Israel. Remember in Ezekiel 36, God has lambasted the shepherds of Israel who
Yeah.
are devouring the sheep. You're not binding up the wounded. You're eating them. You're supposed to be feeding them, and you're devouring them. And judgment is coming. And I'm going to take those sheep from you. I'm going to give them to my shepherd, David, right? So the servants then, who are the servants?
Prophets.
The prophets, correct. These are the prophets that throughout the history have been coming to Israel, calling out the leaders, especially the kings, the priests, the teachers, the rabbis, calling them out to repent, to bring forth the fruit that we want. And you have to say, well, what is the fruit that God wants from the vineyard? What is he looking for?
There's people to love them.
Yeah. I mean, it's the fruit of the Spirit, the love, the joy, the peace, the patience, the character of God on display, the justice, to have a beautiful community here of love and faithfulness. And they're not. It's becoming a place of corruption, as we just saw in the temple. It turned into a den of thieves. And of course, the son of the man
Jesus.
is, of course, Jesus Christ, right?
Mhm.
The Son of God. And it's pretty obvious, and that's what they did. He's called them out for the blood of all the martyrs before, all the prophets before that they killed. They are responsible for them all, these leaders of Israel. And so the question is, what is the lesson of this parable? We'll say this, what is about to happen that causes them to say, surely not?
That this vineyard will be given to other people, to the apostles, the ministers, the elders.
Gentiles.
Yeah. These tenants will be destroyed. Judgment is coming specifically from God. God will judge and destroy these leaders of Israel. He has set a date when he will do that, specific to them. And when is that date that you should know well by now?
70 AD.
It's 70 AD. Destruction of Jerusalem and the temple, which he just wept over Jerusalem for it. But this is bringing down the leadership, and he's going to give his people this vineyard, which includes many believing Jews, and will also include many believing Gentiles. This is a new vineyard. This vineyard now he's going to give over. So if you remember in Romans, Paul talks about that vine,
Mhm.
and he talks about the Jews as the original vine, and what are we in that?
Grafted in.
Grafted in.
We are those who've been grafted in. There's one vine of Israel here, God's chosen people, and he has plucked out all the unbelieving branches, and he's added in believing branches from all the nations. And so you have this one, it's a continuous vine, but now what we're seeing is it's a vine of faith. It began first with the Jews who believe, but now includes us Gentiles who also believe. We're grafted into them. But this judgment day that's coming is specific to the leadership of Israel, to those who have been in charge of them. And their seat of power has always been the temple. And that's coming down. And the whole system is coming down. Destruction's coming. That's why when they hear this, they say, surely not. This is horrifying. I mean, yeah, we know that there needs to be reforms and there's corruption, but that this kind of judgment coming upon them is a horrifying prospect once again, so that even the people are like, surely not. But he looks directly at them, and then he quotes scripture. And what does he say? Let's pick it up, verses 17 and 18. Jack, you want to get that for us?
But he looked directly at them and said, "What then is this that is written? The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Everyone who falls on that stone will be broken to pieces, and when it falls on anyone, it will crush him."
Okay. So he quotes now. Do you know what that psalm is? He quotes
118.
Psalm 118. He references that. The stone the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. That's an incredible prophecy. Because it's you can imagine they're saying, until Christ comes, what does that mean? They have it. They've always had that for 1,000 years. They've had those verses with them. The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. What in the world does that mean? What is this stone that the builders, our leaders, will be rejecting? And that stone's going to become the cornerstone.
That's always been a little tricky for me because he calls Peter the cornerstone of the church, doesn't he?
No,
Build my church upon this rock.
He calls him the rock, and on this rock I will build my church.
Okay.
He doesn't call him the cornerstone.
Right.
He calls, in Ephesians, he talks about the church is built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets, with Christ Jesus being the chief cornerstone.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that's important. So it's that Peter is, and you see that in Acts, where Peter is the chief spokesman of the church. He speaks for the apostles in the book of Acts. And so but what Peter preaches is not himself, he preaches Christ. And so we say, look, we are built on Christ, the Christ that Peter preached. And that's really important to get that, because there is confusion, especially today, about when someone says, I believe in Jesus, you have to ask, what Jesus do you believe in? You ask the Mormons, they believe in Jesus, but they don't believe in the Jesus that Peter preached,
Right.
and that Paul preached. Their Jesus is I think the Archangel Michael, who's come in the flesh somehow, right?
Yeah.
Well, the Muslims believe in Jesus too, don't they?
Right. They believe in Jesus too, but they don't believe in the Jesus that Peter preached.
Right.
Or that
They
Paul
believe Jesus was a prophet and a teacher. They don't believe he was a God.
Son of
preached.
God.
They believe in Jesus, except they don't believe that he's the Son of God,
Mhm.
and they don't believe that he died on the cross.
Mm.
And in fact, and they believe that he ascended to heaven and that he will return, but he's not going to return. He's going to return and to break all the crosses and kill all the pigs and tell all the Christians that you were wrong about me.
Mhm.
And point them to Allah, right? So it's weird because sometimes Muslims will say that they are Christians,
Yeah.
and they don't mean a word of it. Well, they mean Christian in the sense that the Quran describes a Christian for them is a Muslim, you know. So they are. It's a deceptive game that they play, and you have to be aware of it. It's like what Jesus are we talking about? We're talking about the Jesus that Peter and Paul preached, the apostles preached, the Jesus that was rejected, that has become the cornerstone.
The cornerstone is what the builders use to take all measurements from, and it's all built from that.
Mm,
Yeah. It's the first stone laid, and everything is built on that. You're exactly right.
mm.
So, and then he says something interesting. Everyone who falls on that stone will be broken to pieces,
Yeah,
and when it falls on anyone, it will crush him.
yeah, sounds like Daniel.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? You remember Daniel's, uh, not Daniel's dream, but Nebuchadnezzar's dream of the statue of the gold head and the silver chest
Yeah.
and bronze and the iron, and then a stone not cut from human hands
Mm.
comes and hits the statue at the feet, and it crumbles to nothing, and then the stone becomes a mountain that covers the whole earth. Yeah, if you fall on that stone, and you'll be broken to pieces, and when it falls on anyone, it will crush him. That's interesting. Um, so the suggestion, I think the interpretation of it, that this is kind of coincides with what he has been saying. He will destroy those tenets. And to fall on that stone, those who are attacking that stone will be broken. Those who are seeking to fall on Christ, to take hold of him, to put him to death, they will be broken to pieces, as they will see in 70 AD when their judgment comes. And when that stone, in a sense, that stone that was rejected becoming the cornerstone falls, it will crush him. And does remind you also of another passage, Genesis 3:15. If you remember
Oh,
that.
the heel of the woman will crush the head.
Yeah, the
the-
son of the woman,
Yeah.
the serpent will bruise the heel. He will attack and bruise the heel, and the son of the woman will crush his head. So it's kind of a dynamic here. I don't know if we have any notes on that particular verse there. That might be helpful and insightful, but there's some different takes on it. All right. Well, let's I think we need to break it here because we don't have time to really get beyond that. So any last comments or questions about our text today here? Let's
Good study.
Mm.
Mm.